Stop looking for a job and start building something with trust in Allah. My beloved brothers and sisters, many people spend their entire lives waiting for permission to begin. They wait for the perfect opportunity, the perfect job, or the approval of others before they take a step forward. But in that waiting, years pass, confidence weakens, and dreams slowly fade. Islam teaches us something deeper. Your rizq is not controlled by people, companies, or systems. It is written by Allah. A job can be a means, but it is never the source. When you believe that your provision comes only from Allah, your mindset changes. You stop living in fear and you begin to take action with trust. Instead of waiting for something to come to you, you start building with what you already have, knowing that Allah will open doors you cannot even imagine. Rizq comes from Allah, not from a job, my beloved brothers and sisters. Understand this deeply. Your rizq does not come from a company, a boss, or a salary. It comes from Allah alone. Many people tie their hearts to jobs as if those jobs are the source of their survival, but this is a misunderstanding that creates fear and anxiety. A job is only a door, a means created by Allah, but the one who provides through that door is Allah Himself. When you place your trust in the job instead of Allah, your heart becomes restless, always worried about losing what you have. But when you return your trust to Allah, something inside you begins to calm. You realize that even if one door closes, Allah can open another in ways you never expected. This belief is not just a statement. It is a way of living that brings peace to your heart. Many people become overwhelmed because they think their future depends on a single opportunity. They believe if they lose one job, everything will collapse, and this fear slowly controls their decisions. But reflect for a moment, how many times has Allah provided for you in ways you did not plan? There were moments when things seemed uncertain, yet somehow provision still reached you. That was not the job. That was Allah showing you His power. When you remember this, your perspective begins to shift. You stop seeing people as the source of your sustenance and start recognizing them as tools used by Allah. This understanding frees your heart from depending on creation and connects you directly to the Creator who never fails and never forgets His servants. When you place your reliance on Allah, your mindset changes from fear to faith. You begin to move differently, think differently, and even speak differently. Instead of saying, what if I lose everything? You start saying, Allah will provide for me in ways I cannot imagine. This is not blind hope. It is a deep trust built on knowing who Allah is. He is Ar-Razzaq, the one who provides endlessly, without limits. When your heart is attached to Him, even uncertainty becomes easier to handle. You stop overthinking every situation and start focusing on what you can do with sincerity. Your actions become stronger because they are no longer driven by panic, but by trust. And that trust becomes a source of inner strength and calm. Sometimes Allah tests you by taking away what you thought was your only source of income. This moment feels heavy and it may even shake your confidence. But in reality, it is a powerful reminder that your provision was never tied to that one thing. Allah removes something so that your heart can detach from it and return to Him. These tests are not punishments. They are opportunities to rebuild your trust. When you go through such moments with patience and continue making dua, Allah opens doors that you could not have planned yourself. The pain you feel becomes a step toward a deeper connection with Allah. And that connection brings a kind of peace that no job or salary can ever give you. Overthinking about the future often comes from forgetting who is in control. You start calculating every possibility, worrying about every outcome, and your mind becomes tired. But when you remind yourself that Allah has already written your rizq, your thoughts begin to settle. You realize that what is meant for you will never miss you, and what misses you was never meant for you. This belief removes a huge burden from your shoulders. It allows you to focus on your present actions instead of being trapped in endless worry about the future. When your heart accepts this reality, you begin to experience a calmness that cannot be explained, only felt. Dua becomes more meaningful when you truly believe that Allah is your provider. Instead of making dua with doubt, you begin to ask with certainty, knowing that Allah hears every word and understands every need. You speak to Him about your fears, your struggles, and your hopes, and in that conversation, your heart finds comfort. Even before the answer comes, you feel lighter because you know you are not alone. Allah is always near, always listening, always responding in the best way. This connection through dua strengthens your faith and reminds you that your rizq is already taken care of, even if you cannot see how it will reach you. There is a difference between working for provision and trusting in the source of provision. Islam teaches us to work, to strive and to put in effort, but it also teaches us not to attach our hearts to the means. When you understand this balance, you work with sincerity without becoming dependent on the outcome. You do your best, but your heart remains calm because it knows the result is in Allah's hands. This balance protects you from disappointment and keeps your faith strong even when things do not go as planned. It allows you to move forward without losing hope, no matter what challenges you face. Many people feel stuck because they believe they have no opportunities, but in reality they are looking at the wrong source. When you look at people or systems as your only path, you limit what Allah can do for you. But when you turn your focus to Allah, you open yourself to possibilities beyond your imagination. Allah can create opportunities where there were none, connect you with people you never expected, and guide you to paths you never considered. This is the power of trusting in Allah as the true provider. It expands your vision and removes the limitations that fear places on your mind. Patience plays a key role in understanding rizq. Sometimes the delay in provision is not a denial but a preparation. Allah may be shaping your character, strengthening your faith, or guiding you away from something harmful. During these delays, it is easy to feel frustrated, but patience reminds you that Allah's timing is always perfect. When you remain patient and continue to trust, you grow stronger inside. You learn to rely on Allah more deeply, and this reliance becomes a source of stability in your life. It teaches you that even waiting can be a form of worship when done with the right intention. Your self-respect is also connected to how you view rizq. When you depend too much on people, you may begin to lower your standards or tolerate things that harm your dignity. But when you know that Allah is your provider, you protect your self-worth. You understand that you do not need to chase anyone or compromise your values for provision. Allah will provide for you in ways that align with your dignity and your faith. This understanding gives you confidence and allows you to walk away from situations that do not serve your well-being. Avoiding sins is another important part of attracting barakah in your rizq. Sometimes it is not the lack of effort that blocks provision, but the presence of actions that displease Allah. When you strive to stay away from what is wrong and seek forgiveness for your mistakes, you open doors of mercy. Allah increases your provision, not just in quantity, but in quality. You begin to feel content with what you have, and that contentment is a form of richness that cannot be measured. It brings peace to your heart and makes your journey lighter and more meaningful. At the end of it all, remember that your rizq is already written, and Allah has never forgotten you for a single moment. Every delay, every test and every opportunity is part of a plan designed perfectly for you. When you trust this plan, you stop living in fear and start living with hope. You continue to make effort, you continue to make dua, and you continue to believe that Allah will take care of you. This belief transforms your life, bringing you closer to inner peace and allowing you to move forward with confidence, knowing that your future is in the hands of the most merciful. A job is a means, not the source. A job is something many people hold tightly in their hearts, believing it is the very thing that sustains them. But in reality, it is only a means created by Allah, not the source of your provision. When you begin to understand this, your heart starts to shift away from fear and toward trust. You realize that no employer, no business, and no system has the power to provide independently. Everything operates under the command of Allah. This understanding frees you from attaching your peace to something temporary. It allows you to work without becoming emotionally dependent on the outcome. And when your heart is no longer tied to the job itself, you begin to experience a calmness that comes from knowing that your sustenance is secured by the one who never fails. My beloved brothers and sisters, reflect on how easily circumstances can change in this world. Jobs can be lost, companies can shut down, and plans can fall apart in a moment. If your heart is attached to these things as your source, then every change will shake you deeply. But if your heart is attached to Allah, then even when things change, you remain steady. This is the beauty of understanding that a job is only a means. It protects your heart from being broken by worldly uncertainty. Instead of panic, you feel patience. Instead of despair, you feel hope. Because you know that the one who provided through one path can provide through another. And he is never limited by what you can see. When people see their job as the source, they begin to live in constant anxiety. They fear losing it. They overthink every situation and they feel trapped by their circumstances. This anxiety slowly drains their energy and weakens their faith. But when you shift your understanding, something powerful happens. You begin to see your job as just one of many doors that Allah can open. If one door closes, it does not mean your provision has ended. It simply means Allah is redirecting you. This belief removes a heavy burden from your mind and allows you to move forward with clarity instead of fear. Trusting that a job is only a means changes how you approach your work. You still give your best effort, you still act with sincerity, but your heart remains balanced. You do not let success make you arrogant, and you do not let difficulty break you. You understand that results are not in your control, they are in Allah's hands. This balance protects you from emotional extremes and keeps your heart connected to something greater than the temporary outcomes of this world. It allows you to work with purpose while maintaining inner peace. Sometimes Allah takes away a job not to harm you, but to remind you where your trust truly belongs. It can feel painful, confusing, and even frightening in that moment. But if you reflect deeply, you will see that this is an opportunity to reconnect with Allah. It is a chance to rebuild your faith and to remember that your provision was never tied to that one place. Through patience and dua, Allah opens new paths that you may never have considered. These moments of loss often become the turning points that lead to unexpected growth and strength. Overthinking often increases when people believe their future depends entirely on their job. They begin to calculate every risk and worry about every possible outcome. But this way of thinking only creates more stress. When you remind yourself that a job is only a means, your mind begins to relax. You realize that your future is not limited to what you currently see. Allah has countless ways to provide for you, and His plan is far greater than your imagination. This understanding brings a sense of ease that allows you to focus on your efforts without being overwhelmed by fear. Dua becomes more sincere when your heart understands that Allah is the true provider. You stop asking with doubt and start asking with certainty. You pour your concerns, your fears, and your hopes into your supplications, knowing that Allah is listening. Even before you see the results, your heart feels lighter because you have placed your trust in the right place. This connection with Allah strengthens your faith and reminds you that your provision is already taken care of. Even if the path to it is still unfolding, a person who understands that a job is only a means will not compromise their values for it. They will not sacrifice their dignity or their faith out of fear of losing income. This is because their trust is not in the job but in Allah. They know that what is written for them will reach them without needing to lower themselves. This understanding gives them strength to walk away from what is harmful and to choose what aligns with their faith. It protects their self-respect and keeps their heart pure. Patience becomes easier when you know that delays in provision are part of Allah's wisdom. Sometimes opportunities do not come as quickly as you expect, and this can test your faith. But when you remind yourself that a job is only a means, you begin to see these delays differently. They are not signs of failure, they are part of a greater plan. Allah may be preparing something better for you or protecting you from something you cannot see. This perspective allows you to remain patient and hopeful even during difficult times. Small efforts can lead to big results when they are done with sincerity and trust in Allah. You may start with something very simple, something that feels insignificant, but with time and consistency, it can grow into something meaningful. When you do not limit yourself to a job as your only path, you open your mind to new possibilities. You begin to take initiative, to explore your skills, and to build something with intention. Allah places barakah in these efforts, and what starts small can become a source of great benefit. Avoiding sins plays a powerful role in how your provision flows into your life. Sometimes it is not the lack of opportunities that holds you back, but the presence of actions that distance you from Allah. When you make an effort to purify your heart, to seek forgiveness and to stay away from what is wrong, you invite barakah into your life. Your provision becomes not only sufficient but also peaceful. You feel content, and that contentment is a form of wealth that goes beyond material things. In the end, remember that your job is never your provider. It is only a tool. Allah is the one who sustains you, guides you, and opens doors for you. When you place your trust in Him, your heart becomes steady, your mind becomes calm, and your path becomes clearer. You continue to work, to strive, and to make dua, but you do so with a sense of peace that comes from knowing that everything is in Allah's control. And with that trust, you move forward with hope, knowing that what is meant for you will always find its way to you. Taking action is part of tawakkul. Many people misunderstand tawakkul and think it means waiting without effort, as if trust in Allah requires you to sit still and hope things will change. But this is not what Islam teaches us. Tawakkul is not passive, it is active trust. It is when your heart relies on Allah, while your body moves with effort. You take steps even when you feel uncertain, because you believe Allah will guide your path. When you understand this, you stop delaying your growth and start moving forward with sincerity. You no longer wait for perfect conditions, because you realize that perfection is not required, only intention and effort. And when you begin to act with this mindset, Allah places barakah in your steps, making even small actions meaningful and rewarding. My beloved brothers and sisters, imagine if you had complete certainty that Allah is guiding you. Would you still hesitate as much as you do now? Often, hesitation comes from fear, not from lack of ability. You doubt yourself, you overthink outcomes, and you wait for signs before taking action. But tawakkul teaches you to move first and trust that Allah will handle what comes next. You do not need to see the entire path. You only need to take the next step, and with each step, Allah opens another door. This is how growth happens, not by standing still, but by walking forward with faith in your heart. Taking action is a form of worship when it is done with the right intention. When you strive to improve your life, to use your skills, and to build something beneficial, you are not just working for the dunya, you are fulfilling a responsibility given to you by Allah. Effort itself carries reward, especially when it is connected to sincerity. Even if the results are not immediate, your effort is never wasted. Allah sees every step you take, every struggle you endure, and every moment you choose to keep going despite your doubts. This awareness gives your actions deeper meaning and strengthens your connection with Allah. Overthinking often prevents people from taking action. They want everything to be clear before they begin, but clarity does not always come before movement. Sometimes clarity comes after you start. When you rely on Allah, you do not need to control every detail. You trust that He will guide you through the process. This trust allows you to move even when things are not perfect. It removes the pressure of needing to have everything figured out and replaces it with a sense of calm determination. You begin to focus on what you can do now instead of being overwhelmed by what you cannot control. Fear is one of the biggest obstacles to action. It whispers to you that you might fail, that you are not ready, or that others will judge you. But tawakkul teaches you to place that fear aside and trust in Allah's plan. Failure itself is not something to be feared. It is often a step toward growth. When you act with sincerity, even your mistakes become lessons that bring you closer to success. Allah does not expect perfection from you. He expects effort. And when you continue despite your fears, you develop a strength that cannot be shaken by temporary setbacks. Dua plays an important role in taking action. Before you begin, you ask Allah for guidance, for strength, and for success. During your journey, you continue to make dua, seeking ease and clarity. And after you act, you place your trust in Allah, knowing that the outcome is in His hands. This connection through dua keeps your heart grounded and your intentions pure. It reminds you that you are not alone in your efforts. Allah is with you, supporting you, guiding you, and opening doors for you in ways you may not even notice. Sometimes people wait for motivation before they act, but motivation is not always reliable. It comes and goes, leaving you stuck in cycles of starting and stopping. Tawakkul teaches you to act even when you do not feel motivated. You rely on discipline and trust in Allah instead of temporary emotions. This consistency is what leads to real progress. When you take action regularly, even in small ways, you build momentum. And with time, that momentum becomes a force that moves you forward without requiring constant motivation. Your self-respect grows when you take action instead of remaining stuck. When you keep waiting, you begin to doubt yourself and lose confidence in your abilities. But when you start doing something, no matter how small, you begin to rebuild that confidence. You prove to yourself that you are capable of moving forward. This growth strengthens your mindset and helps you see yourself differently. You no longer feel powerless. You feel responsible for your own progress. And this sense of responsibility is a key part of becoming stronger, both mentally and spiritually. There will be moments when your efforts do not bring immediate results, and this can be discouraging. But remember that tawakkul includes patience. You continue to act while trusting that Allah's timing is perfect. What seems like a delay may actually be preparation for something greater. Allah may be teaching you lessons, refining your character, or guiding you toward a better path. When you remain patient and consistent, your efforts begin to accumulate, and eventually they lead to outcomes that are worth the wait. Avoiding sins is also part of strengthening your tawakkul. When your actions are aligned with what pleases Allah, your path becomes clearer and your heart becomes lighter. Sin creates barriers that can block your progress, both spiritually and in your worldly efforts. But when you strive to stay on the right path, seeking forgiveness and improving yourself, you invite barakah into your journey. Your actions become more effective and your results carry more peace. This connection between faith and action is what makes tawakkul so powerful. Taking action also means using the abilities that Allah has given you. Each person has skills, talents, and opportunities that are unique to them. When you ignore these blessings, you limit your own growth. But when you use them with sincerity, you honor the trust that Allah has placed in you. You begin to see how your efforts can benefit not only yourself, but also others. The sense of purpose adds depth to your actions and makes your journey more meaningful. At the end of the day, tawakkul is about moving forward with a heart that trusts Allah completely. You do what you can, you give your best effort, and then you leave the results to Him. This balance brings peace to your heart and strength to your actions. You are no longer paralyzed by fear or overwhelmed by uncertainty. Instead, you move with confidence, knowing that Allah is guiding you every step of the way. And with that trust, every action you take becomes a step closer to growth, success, and inner peace. Fear stops more people than failure. Fear has a quiet way of controlling a person without them even realizing it. It does not always appear loudly. Sometimes it comes as hesitation, overthinking, or the feeling that you are not ready yet. You delay your steps, waiting for the perfect time, but that time never seems to arrive. In reality, it is not failure that holds you back. It is the fear of failure itself. This fear convinces you to stay where you are, even when you know you are capable of more. Islam teaches us that life is a test, and tests require movement, effort, and trust in Allah. When fear becomes stronger than your trust, it begins to limit what you can achieve. But when you shift your focus back to Allah, you start to see fear for what it truly is, a barrier that can be overcome. My beloved brothers and sisters, think about how many opportunities people miss simply because they were too afraid to try. Not because they were unable, but because they convinced themselves they might fail. Shaitan uses this fear to keep you stuck, whispering doubts into your heart and making you question your ability. But remember, Allah does not expect perfection from you. He expects effort and sincerity. When you allow fear to control you, you deny yourself the chance to grow, to learn, and to improve. But when you step forward despite your fear, you break that cycle and begin to reclaim your strength. Failure itself is not something to be ashamed of. In fact, it is often one of the greatest teachers in life. When you try and things do not go as planned, you gain experience, wisdom, and understanding. You learn what works and what does not, and this knowledge becomes a foundation for future success. But when fear stops you from trying at all, you gain nothing. You remain in the same place with the same doubts and the same uncertainty. This is why fear is more harmful than failure. Failure moves you forward, while fear keeps you trapped in one place. Overthinking is one of the ways fear manifests in your life. You begin to analyze every possible outcome, imagining what could go wrong. And this mental loop exhausts you. Instead of taking action, you remain stuck in your thoughts. But Tawakkul teaches you to trust Allah and take steps even when everything is not clear. You are not required to know every detail before you begin. You are only required to make an effort and trust that Allah will guide you. When you let go of excessive overthinking, you free yourself to act, and that action becomes the beginning of your growth. Fear often comes from worrying about people's opinions. You think about what others will say if you fail, how they will judge you, or how they will see you differently. But in reality, people's opinions do not define your worth or your future. Allah is the one who matters, and His view of you is what truly counts. When you focus on pleasing Allah instead of people, your fear begins to fade. You realize that your journey is between you and your Creator, and that gives you the courage to move forward without being held back by the expectations of others. Dua plays a powerful role in overcoming fear. When you feel uncertain, you turn to Allah and ask for strength, guidance and clarity. You speak to Him about your worries and your doubts, and in doing so, your heart begins to feel lighter. You are reminded that you are not alone in your struggles. Allah is always near, always listening, and always ready to support you. This connection gives you the courage to take steps even when you feel afraid. It replaces your fear with a sense of trust and calm. Sometimes fear is rooted in past experiences. You may have tried before and failed, and that memory makes you hesitant to try again. But every new opportunity is different, and every step forward is a chance to rewrite your story. Islam teaches us not to lose hope in Allah's mercy and plan. What did not work before does not mean it will never work. Allah can change your situation at any moment. When you hold on to this belief, you find the strength to try again, even after setbacks. Taking small steps is one of the best ways to overcome fear. You do not need to make a big leap all at once. Start with what you can do, even if it feels insignificant. Each small action builds confidence and reduces fear. Over time, these small steps add up and lead to meaningful progress. When you focus on manageable actions, fear becomes less overwhelming, and you begin to see that you are capable of more than you thought. Avoiding sins also plays a role in strengthening your courage. When your heart is connected to Allah through obedience, you feel a sense of peace and clarity. Sin, on the other hand, can weaken your heart and increase your doubts. When you strive to stay on the right path and seek forgiveness for your mistakes, your heart becomes stronger. This strength helps you face your fears with greater confidence, knowing that Allah is with you. Patience is essential when dealing with fear. You may not overcome it instantly, and that is okay. Growth takes time, and each step you take is part of that process. When you remain patient and continue to trust Allah, you gradually become stronger. Fear begins to lose its hold on you, and you start to move forward more freely. This patience is not passive. It is active endurance combined with trust in Allah's plan. Self-respect grows when you face your fears instead of avoiding them. Every time you take action despite feeling afraid, you prove to yourself that you are capable. This builds confidence and strengthens your sense of self. You begin to see yourself as someone who can handle challenges and move forward no matter the circumstances. This shift in how you view yourself is powerful and can transform your entire mindset. At the end of it all, remember that fear is temporary, but the regret of not trying can last much longer. Do not let fear stop you from becoming the person you are meant to be. Trust in Allah, take your steps, and allow yourself to grow through the process. Even if you face challenges along the way, each step brings you closer to strength, wisdom, and inner peace. And with Allah by your side, there is nothing that can truly hold you back. Small efforts can grow into big results. Small efforts are often overlooked because they do not appear impressive in the beginning. A person may think that what they are doing is too little to matter, so they delay taking action altogether. But in reality, every big result you see today began with something small. Islam teaches us that Allah loves consistent deeds even if they are small. What matters is not the size of the action, but the sincerity and consistency behind it. When you take a small step with the intention of pleasing Allah and improving your life, that step carries barakah. Over time, these small actions accumulate, and what once seemed insignificant begins to grow into something meaningful. This is how transformation happens, quietly and steadily, without needing to rush or force results. My beloved brothers and sisters, many people are waiting for a big opportunity before they begin. They think they need everything to be perfect, every resource in place and every detail clear. But this mindset often keeps them stuck for years. The truth is, you do not need a perfect beginning, you only need a sincere start. When you begin with what you have, no matter how limited it seems, Allah opens doors for you. That small beginning becomes the seed of something greater. And as you continue, Allah places growth in your efforts in ways you could never have planned yourself. Consistency is more powerful than intensity when it comes to building something meaningful. You may feel motivated one day and do a lot, but then lose that energy the next day. This cycle does not lead to lasting results. But when you commit to small, consistent actions, you create momentum. Even if it feels slow, it is steady. And steady progress is what leads to real change. When you tie your consistency to your trust in Allah, your actions become stronger. You no longer rely on your emotions. You rely on your commitment and your faith. This is what allows small efforts to grow into something significant over time. Overthinking often prevents people from starting small. They imagine the end result and feel overwhelmed by how far they have to go. This fear of the journey makes them avoid taking the first step. But you do not need to focus on the entire path. You only need to focus on what you can do today. When you break things down into small, manageable actions, the journey becomes easier. Each step builds confidence, and that confidence helps you take the next step. In this way, you move forward without being burdened by the size of your goal. Dua plays a key role in the growth of your efforts. When you begin something small, you ask Allah to place barakah in it. You ask Him to guide you, to strengthen you, and to help your efforts grow. This connection with Allah transforms your work from something ordinary into something meaningful. Even if you do not see immediate results, you trust that Allah is working behind the scenes. This trust keeps you going even when progress feels slow, because you know that nothing done for the sake of Allah is ever wasted. Sometimes people compare their small efforts to the big achievements of others and feel discouraged. They forget that those achievements also started small. Comparison can make you lose focus on your own journey and make your efforts feel insignificant. But your path is unique and your growth will come at its own pace. When you focus on your own actions and trust Allah's plan for you, you remove the pressure of comparison. You begin to appreciate your progress, no matter how small, and that appreciation keeps you motivated to continue. Small efforts also teach you patience, which is an essential part of faith. When you do something consistently without immediate results, you learn to trust the process. You learn that growth takes time and that rushing can lead to frustration. Patience strengthens your character and deepens your reliance on Allah. It reminds you that everything happens according to His timing, not yours. When you embrace patience, you find peace in the journey, even before you reach your destination. Avoiding sins plays a powerful role in how your small efforts grow. Sometimes it is not the lack of action that slows you down, but the presence of actions that take away barakah. When you strive to purify your heart, to stay away from what displeases Allah, and to seek forgiveness, your efforts become more effective. Allah places blessings in what you do, and your small actions begin to produce greater results. This connection between your spiritual state and your worldly progress is something many people overlook, but it is deeply important. Self-respect grows when you commit to small actions and follow through with them. Each time you do what you promised yourself, you build trust within yourself. You begin to see that you are capable of discipline and growth. This confidence becomes a driving force that pushes you forward. Instead of doubting yourself, you begin to believe in your ability to improve. This shift in mindset is powerful, and it all starts with small, consistent actions. There will be moments when your small efforts feel like they are not making a difference. You may feel tired, discouraged, or tempted to give up. But this is where your trust in Allah becomes essential. You remind yourself that Allah sees your effort even when you do not see the results. You continue because you know that your work is not in vain. And often, just when you feel like stopping, Allah opens a door that shows you that your efforts were building something all along. Taking small steps also protects you from being overwhelmed. When you try to do too much at once, you can burn out and lose motivation. But when you focus on manageable actions, you create a sustainable path. You are able to continue without feeling exhausted, and this consistency leads to long-term success. This balanced approach aligns with the teachings of Islam, which encourage moderation and steady progress rather than extremes. At the end of it all, remember that what matters is not how big you start, but how consistent you remain. Small efforts, when combined with sincerity, patience, and trust in Allah, can grow into results beyond your expectations. Do not underestimate what you can achieve with steady action and a heart connected to Allah. Keep moving, keep trusting, and keep believing that what you are building, no matter how small it seems today, can become something truly meaningful tomorrow. Trust in Allah removes anxiety about the future. Anxiety about the future often comes from the feeling that everything depends on you. You begin to think that if you do not control every detail, things will fall apart. This pressure builds slowly until it overwhelms your heart. But Islam teaches us something deeply comforting. Your future is already known and written by Allah. When you truly understand this, a heavy burden is lifted from your shoulders. You realize that you are not responsible for controlling outcomes, only for making sincere effort. This shift in understanding changes the way you think. Instead of living in constant worry, you begin to live with trust. And that trust brings a calmness that no amount of planning alone can ever give. My beloved brothers and sisters, anxiety often grows when you look too far ahead. You start imagining problems that have not even happened yet, and your mind becomes trapped in what-if scenarios. But Allah calls you to live with tawakkul, trusting Him step by step. You do not need to solve tomorrow today. You only need to focus on what you can do now, while trusting that Allah will take care of what is ahead. When you bring your attention back to the present, your heart begins to settle. You stop carrying worries that do not belong to this moment, and you begin to feel a sense of ease that comes from relying on Allah. When your trust is placed in Allah, uncertainty no longer feels like a threat. It becomes something you accept with peace. You understand that not knowing the future is not a weakness. It is part of Allah's wisdom. If you knew everything, you would not need to trust. But because you do not know, you turn to Allah, and that connection strengthens your faith. You begin to see uncertainty not as something to fear, but as something that brings you closer to your Creator. And in that closeness, your anxiety starts to fade. Overthinking is one of the main causes of anxiety, and it often comes from trying to predict every outcome. You go over the same thoughts again and again, hoping to find certainty, but instead you find more confusion. Trusting Allah breaks this cycle. It reminds you that you do not need to have all the answers. Allah already knows what is best for you, and He will guide you accordingly. When you accept this, your mind begins to rest. You no longer feel the need to control everything, and this release brings a deep sense of relief. Dua becomes a powerful source of comfort when you are anxious about the future. You speak to Allah about your fears, your uncertainties, and your hopes. In that conversation, your heart begins to feel lighter. You are reminded that you are not alone in your struggles. Allah is always near, always listening, and always aware of your situation. Even before your circumstances change, your heart changes. You feel supported, guided, and cared for. This is the beauty of turning to Allah in times of anxiety. Sometimes anxiety comes from past experiences. You may have faced difficulties before, and those memories make you fear what is ahead. But every moment is new, and Allah's mercy is always present. What happened in the past does not define what will happen in the future. Allah can change your situation at any time. When you hold on to this belief, you find the courage to move forward without being held back by past fears. You begin to see your future as something filled with possibility rather than something to be feared. patience plays an important role in reducing anxiety. When you are patient, you accept that things will unfold in their own time. You do not rush the process or force outcomes. Instead, you trust that Allah's timing is perfect. This patience brings peace to your heart because you are no longer fighting against what you cannot control. You allow things to happen as they are meant to, and in doing so, you free yourself from unnecessary stress. Trust in Allah also helps you maintain your self-respect. When you are anxious, you may feel desperate, trying to secure your future through any means necessary. But when you rely on Allah, you do not need to lower yourself or compromise your values. You know that your provision is written and it will come to you in the right way. This understanding gives you strength to remain firm in your principles and to make choices that align with your faith. Avoiding sins is closely connected to finding peace about the future. Sin can create restlessness in the heart, making anxiety stronger. But when you strive to stay close to Allah, seeking forgiveness and improving your actions, your heart becomes lighter. You feel a sense of clarity and peace that makes it easier to trust Allah. This connection between your spiritual state and your emotional well-being is something many people overlook, but it is deeply important. Taking action also reduces anxiety. When you do what you can in the present, you feel a sense of control over your efforts, even if you cannot control the results. This balance between effort and trust is what Islam teaches. You act with sincerity and then you leave the outcome to Allah. This approach removes the pressure of needing everything to go perfectly and replaces it with a sense of calm determination. There will be times when your future feels unclear, and that uncertainty may still bring moments of worry. But in those moments, remind yourself of who Allah is. He is the one who has always provided for you, guided you, and protected you. He will not abandon you now. When you reflect on His past blessings, your heart begins to trust Him more deeply. This reflection strengthens your faith and reduces your anxiety. At the end of it all, remember that peace comes from knowing that your future is in Allah's hands. You do your part, you make your dua, and you trust that Allah will take care of the rest. This trust transforms your anxiety into calmness and your fear into hope. You begin to move through life with a sense of ease, knowing that no matter what happens, Allah is with you. And with that belief, your heart finds the peace it has been searching for. Building something gives you purpose and growth. Building something in your life gives you a sense of direction that simply waiting can never provide. When you wake up with a purpose, your days begin to feel meaningful instead of empty. Many people feel lost, not because they lack ability, but because they are not actively creating or working towards something. Islam encourages us to be productive, to use what Allah has given us, and to contribute in ways that benefit ourselves and others. When you begin to build, even in small ways, you step out of a passive mindset and into a mindset of growth. This shift alone can change how you feel about your life. Instead of feeling stuck, you begin to feel engaged. And that engagement brings a sense of inner peace that grows with time. My beloved brothers and sisters, purpose is not always something you find instantly. It is something that often develops through action. Many people wait for clarity before they begin, but clarity often comes after you take steps. When you start building something, you begin to discover your strengths, your interests, and your direction. Allah guides those who move, not those who remain still. Each effort you make becomes a step toward understanding your path more clearly. And with each step, your sense of purpose becomes stronger, giving you the motivation to continue even when things feel uncertain. When you are building something, you are also building yourself. You are learning discipline, patience, and resilience. These qualities do not come from comfort, they come from effort and struggle. Every challenge you face becomes an opportunity to grow stronger. Instead of seeing difficulties as obstacles, you begin to see them as part of your development. This perspective changes how you respond to hardship. You no longer feel defeated by it, you feel shaped by it. And this growth becomes one of the most valuable outcomes of your journey. Overthinking often decreases when you are actively working towards something meaningful. When your mind is idle, it tends to wander into worries, doubts, and fears. But when you are engaged in building, your focus shifts from worry to action. You begin to think about solutions instead of problems. This shift in focus reduces anxiety and brings a sense of clarity to your thoughts. You feel more in control of your efforts, even if you cannot control the results. And this balance creates a healthier state of mind. Dua becomes more powerful when it is connected to action. When you are building something, you constantly turn to Allah for guidance, asking Him to bless your efforts and to open doors for you. This connection strengthens your faith and keeps your intentions pure. You are not just working for worldly success, you are working with the hope of earning Allah's pleasure. This combination of effort and dua creates a powerful synergy that brings both spiritual and worldly growth. Building something also protects you from feeling dependent on others. When you create your own path, you develop a sense of independence that strengthens your self-respect. You are no longer waiting for opportunities to come to you, you are creating them. This independence allows you to make decisions based on your values rather than your fears. It gives you the confidence to walk away from situations that do not serve you and to pursue what aligns with your purpose. Patience becomes an essential part of your journey when you are building something. Growth does not happen overnight, and results may take time to appear. But when you understand that this process is part of Allah's plan, you become more patient. You trust that every step you take is leading you somewhere meaningful, even if you cannot see it yet. This patience brings peace to your heart and helps you stay consistent in your efforts. Avoiding sins becomes easier when you are focused on building something meaningful. When your time and energy are directed toward growth, you are less likely to fall into habits that harm you. You become more aware of how your actions affect your progress and your connection with Allah. This awareness encourages you to make better choices, to seek forgiveness when you make mistakes, and to strive for improvement. As a result, your journey becomes not only productive but also spiritually uplifting. Building something gives you a sense of responsibility that shapes your character. You begin to take ownership of your actions and their outcomes. You understand that your progress depends on your effort, your discipline, and your trust in Allah. This responsibility strengthens your mindset and helps you become more mature in your thinking. You are no longer waiting for others to define your path. You are actively shaping it yourself. There will be moments when your efforts feel slow or your progress seems unclear. During these times, it is important to remind yourself why you started. Your purpose is not just about the end result. It is about who you are becoming along the way. Each step you take is contributing to your growth, even if it does not feel significant at the moment. When you keep this perspective, you find the strength to continue, even when motivation fades. Trust in Allah remains the foundation of everything you build. You make your effort, you plan as best as you can, but you leave the results in His hands. This trust removes the pressure of needing everything to go perfectly. It allows you to focus on your actions while remaining calm about the outcome. You know that Allah will guide you to what is best, even if it is different from what you expected. At the end of it all, building something gives your life meaning, growth, and direction. It transforms your mindset from waiting to creating, from fear to trust, and from doubt to confidence. When you combine your effort with faith in Allah, your journey becomes filled with purpose and barakah. You begin to see that every step you take is part of a greater plan, and that plan is designed to help you grow, succeed, and find peace both in this life and the next. My dear brothers and sisters, trusting Allah does not mean you sit still. It means you move forward with faith in your heart. You take steps, even small ones, while knowing that the results are in Allah's hands. Do not limit your future to what you can see right now. Allah is able to provide for you in ways you never expected. Start with what you have. Use your skills and keep your intentions sincere. Whether you succeed quickly or slowly, every step taken with trust in Allah carries barakah. Free yourself from the fear of waiting and step into the mindset of building. Because when you trust Allah and take action, your path begins to open in ways that no job alone could ever define.